Hi, and welcome to The Bright Balloon, a podcast where I'm sharing bright ideas for your balloon business. My name is Sarah Meyer, and I'm a balloon business owner like you, and I love the creative side of what I do, but I really love the business side, which seems to be the part where most people struggle. So I'm here to help. Each week, I'm bringing you an episode full of bite-sized tips you can use to make improvements in your business. I want you to make more money, eliminate stress, and learn along with me as we grow our creative businesses together. Welcome to The Bright Balloon, presented by 17 Hats. Hello and welcome to another episode. Today is a throwback episode, and we are catching up with Nicole from Let Nicole Help. And as you'll hear in this episode, Nicole offers services for balloon professionals to help with the streamlining and the chaos that is kind of behind our business, particularly in 17 Hats setups. So 17 Hats sponsors this podcast. They are the CRM that I use, that so many of you use, but it is a learning curve, and it is hard to get it up and running. And even when you do have it up and running like I do, it's nice to have an expert in your corner to help answer some of your questions. And that's exactly what Nicole does. She is going to talk about what she's been up to the last couple of months, actually years since we last spoke with her. She has hit a huge milestone in her business that we're going to talk all about in this episode. And before we jump in, a huge thank you to PremiumConwin for making these throwback episodes possible. Let's take a quick break and head over to the UGlu Hotline for some great advice that sticks, and then get into this episode with my friend Nicole from Let Nicole Help. Welcome to the UGlu Hotline, where we discuss great advice that sticks, brought to you by Pro Tapes. If you have a question or some great advice to share, click the link in the show notes to call in and leave a voicemail.
Hello, my name is Jamie Lee with Ventura County Balloons out of Ventura, California. My tip for the day is that when you're using foils that don't want to stick to one another with a UGlu, you put some clear tape on both sides. Then you use one of the long strips of UGlu dashes, not the dashes, but the strips. And voila, you're able to put them together and they will stick for as long as you want them to stick. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Pro Tapes is a leading manufacturer of specialty tape products like Pro Gaff, Pro Artist Tape, and our favorite balloon tape, UGlu, which helps you create amazing balloon arrangements and decorations in less time. You can save 5% on UGlu when you buy directly from Havin A Party using code BRIGHT at checkout. All right, welcome back, Nicole from Let Nicole Help. This is going to be our throwback episode. We are catching up. You have been on the podcast several times, and thank you to PremiumConwin for sponsoring these catch-up episodes. You have had a lot change in your life and in your business since we last spoke. Before we get into that, go ahead and introduce yourself and let everyone know what you do in the balloon community.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. It's always good to come on and chat. Yeah, so I am Nicole of Let Nicole Help, and I work primarily with 17 Hats CRM to set people up there, whether that's like with one-on-one support, full setup, or even the course. But I kind of made my way into the balloon community after we, of course, worked together at our same full-time job and got to just chatting during the summer, and you introduced me to this fine community, and I always be appreciative for that. So that's how I landed here.
I don't know if we've ever told this story before, because we were both employed and it was kind of weird to bash our employer.
Right.
But
right.
I mean, it wasn't a terrible job. It was a demanding, low paying job. I'll just say that. We both worked at a private college together. And I remember one summer, this was 3 years ago now? 2 years ago?
Gosh, yeah. Yeah, probably 3.
We had pretty slow summers because it was a college. So summers were basically student free. And Nicole and I both worked in kind of office jobs. We didn't work in front of students. We worked kind of behind the scenes. So we were still there over summer, but it was slower. And I remember Nicole was like, you want to work outside and do co-working every Thursday? And I was like, yeah, I don't even know what that is, but any chance to get out of my office. And I remember telling you about 17 Hats and being like, it's this thing and I don't know, I could use help with it. And then 2 days later, she was an expert and the rest is history. But that brings us to today. your big news that you shared recently is that you left your full-time job. So we are now both full-time entrepreneurs. Why don't you tell us about that choice? How long did it take to get to the spot where you were able to leave your job?
Yeah, gosh, what a moment that was. But yeah, so I had kind of worked with Loon folks for over 2 years, I guess. I was doing both, helping on the nights and weekends, and maybe sometimes during the day.
We were both the queens of double dippers.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I think eventually after, being able to go to Summit last year in November and just getting to, finally meet so many people in person and making the connections, working with folks, I decided, you know what, this is a fun community. I love working with these people, and just kind of decided I had enough of dragging myself to that job and just going to dive right in. So,
well, we're very excited. And if you feel comfortable, because I know that you are pretty financially savvy and you have a family and you have a husband, like, I think it's always interesting to talk through making the leap to full time, because it's scary. Yeah. It took me a really long time. And I think the big question that I had, and I think a lot of people have, is like, how do you know, not necessarily that it's time, but like, realistically, how can you do this? Like, were you looking for a specific dollar amount of consistent income or a savings, or like, how were you confident in quitting?
Yeah. So I, wasn't sure if I would be able to dive right in and replace my full income from the job. But during the time that I was working both, I definitely was saving to have a little space in case, things didn't pick up quite as quickly.
Right. Like a runway.
But, runway.
I oversaved. I had like a year's worth of salary in the bank, which honestly we went through because we renovated our basement. So I'm glad we have it. But like, I felt like there was no amount of money that made me feel safe. Like, it was still really scary.
Yeah, it's scary for sure. But like, thankfully my husband is supportive of it. The insurance is through him anyway. So that all those things helped. And then just knowing that, I could totally just ditch thinking about the other job and having it many days kind of just like deflate my energy.
Yeah. Like,
just knowing that I would have more energy to focus in on the thing that I actually like doing kind of gives me a little hope and confidence that.
Yeah, it wasn't like you were leaving your dream job to take a chance on something else. Like, you were leaving a job you were pretty over to pursue pretty much anything else, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, And the way it worked, it basically I don't know, I haven't been there for a while now, but it felt like anytime someone would quit, they wouldn't replace the job. They would just dump all the work on other people. So Nicole was one of the last people standing. So what, like 5 of us had quit and you had just like absorbed all the work. So it was, I would imagine, pretty terrible. How did quitting feel?
The most glorious thing ever. There was a little bit guilt because of, not knowing if they were going to replace it, but it sounds like they did. So that did leave some comfort. But either way, there was no looking back. Like, once it got closer and closer, it was just like, yes, this is a go. And every day since, I have not had any bit of regret. So
yeah. I think you mentioned like the freeing up your brain space is so nice. Like, oh my gosh, the best thing for me was like signing out of that email account and never signing back in. Like, I don't have to fix any of these problems. I'm just like done, and I'm only going to focus on my own stuff that I actually enjoy.
Yeah. And it's funny because like, I thought I would feel massively different, but I kind of didn't, because my mind was already such that like, no, I'm meant to be doing this role, and I'm not meant to be doing that other thing anymore. So yeah, other than the totally being able to erase it from my brain, like day to day, it hasn't really even felt that weird to stay home and work on this, because it just feels like what I'm meant to do. So
yeah, that's awesome. Well, let's take a quick break and then let's talk a little bit more about what you actually do and attending Summit and Float. You are like, you're in it now. You're one of us. So I'm curious what it was like from a non-balloon person. So we'll be right back. Are you ready to take your balloon business to the next level? Look no further than Havin A Party Wholesale, your ultimate destination for all things balloons. Havin A Party Wholesale is on the cutting edge of new products that will wow your clients, from top brands like Tuftex, Jamar, Anagram, Ellie's, Sempertex, PremiumConwin, and introducing Brookloon, a new balloon line created by the Havin A Party family. They've got the widest selection to fuel your creativity. Join the successful league of professional balloon artists who shop at havinaparty.com. All right, welcome back. You have just returned from Float, and at the end of last year, you attended Summit. You said that was kind of a turning point where like you knew you were going to leave your job when you went to Summit. Yeah. And then Float, you were a vendor in the insanely large showroom. How were both of those experiences? Were they nerve-wracking?
Yes. I mean, yes, and they were so good in their own ways, very different experiences.
Yeah, real quick. Let's sidebar. I have explained what I think my differences are between Summit and Float, but I'm curious what your opinions are. Like, how would you explain each of them to someone who's considering going to an event?
Yeah, like as a vendor.
No, just as a balloon person. Like, what was your perception?
Yeah. I felt like Summit was just like so hands-on and like we're working together specifically to, solve these problems or make this decision and like so hands-on. Whereas Float, it was just like, wow, get inspired by all these ideas and try all these things and see new things and, inspirational.
Yeah.
So both good, but just, different,
Did you feel like, and this is no reflection on the event, but I'm just wondering personally for you as someone who does 17 hats setups behind the scenes, like, did you feel like one of those was better for you or for the people attending?
I would say just because there's so much involved in 17 hats and there's so many things to think about. I think that one-on-one time did, those kind of conversations were a little bit more beneficial, both for myself and for the people, I was speaking with, because it's really like something you have to focus in on,
So at Summit, when you can actually sit down with people. Yeah. Float's more like, here's what I do, contact me later.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. No, I was so proud of you that you were there. It was so fun. And it was just like, wow, Nicole, she's at a balloon thing. This is so weird.
I know. Yeah, I remember I walked in and I'm just like carrying my little bucket of my monitor and my laptop. And I'm like seeing all these gorgeous displays of the vendors. And I'm like, okay, I think my booth is somewhere over here. But I had to like circle 3 times just to find it because of all of the amazing balloons up around. But yeah, it was crazy. I was watching the booths sell for Float. And then all of a sudden I peeked again at it and there was one left. And I was like, well, I think I'm going to do this. Cause I think at the time I hadn't even gone to Summit yet when I bought my Float booth. So it was definitely a chance, but yeah, I mean, it's always nice to meet with people over Zoom and things, but it's a whole nother thing to just see them in person.
Yeah. Well, and I remember because Zach was asking me like, is she going to know anyone? Like, is she? And I was like, weirdly, yeah, she knows so many people. Like, so many of the other vendors, so many of your clients that you work with. Like, we were all there. So, I mean, I think you were probably more connected than half the vendors. Like, because you actually do interact with people versus even like people who sell, balloons. They don't always interact with the people they're working with. So, yeah, I can imagine it was pretty fun to connect with people. Did you grab a few new clients?
Yeah, I sure did, both places. So yeah, that was always fun. Having that one-on-one conversation, face-to-face, something about it just, of course, just kind of helps people click,
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely. Well, okay. And we've talked about it on other episodes and we've danced around it in this episode in terms of like what you actually do. Let's take a quick break and then let's just remind people the services that you offer. And they've changed a little bit, like how you've structured things, ideas for the future. And I just want to talk about your perspective of 17 hats and why people might need it. Because I know why I use it, but I think from the outside looking in, you're like, I don't know how you run businesses without some sort of system. So let's get into the nuts and bolts after one more quick break.
I know a little something about you. I know you're a business owner. I know you're in the balloon decorating space. I want to tell you about the Balloon Suite Mastermind. This is a group of business owners just like you who are focused on overcoming their current challenges and reaching their sales goals. In a business mastermind, you get access to peer support, the networking with other members. We help you with accountability on your action items and goals. You learn a lot and you solve problems so that you can overcome those roadblocks that you're looking at right now in your business. The Balloon Suite Mastermind is included in most of the packages we offer at Balloon Suite, and I would love to have you come on over, check out our packages, and join the mastermind. Come to balloonsuite.com to learn more.
All right, welcome back. So we've talked about quitting your job, entering the world of balloons full time, attending Float and Summit to offer your services. Let's talk about what those services are. What are the most popular things that you do for balloon people?
Yeah, most often I'm working one-on-one with folks to customize their setup in 17 hats. So kind of taking in, there's a lot of standard things that are in the balloon, decor process, of course, but then kind of working with people to customize it to their needs according to their follow-up sequence and how they bill and everything, and getting their products list all entered in there for them. So it's all ready to go.
Okay.
And then, so mainly the one-on-one, but also with like kind of coaching calls, essentially over Zoom and things.
Sure. So like helping us all get systems in place. And if someone is listening, if this is like the first episode you've ever heard, 17 Hats is like the back end, I don't know, what would you say? Booking system is like the simplest way to say it. I mean, it's a CRM,
think of it,
but for the most part, it's how people contact you, how you send them an invoice, they pay, you keep track of their event and kind of follow through. So that can look really different depending on how your business is. So you said it's like a semi-standard, but then there's a lot of customization that you do. How do you work with people to figure out what works best? Like, do you meet with your clients and talk through what they need, or how do you know what setup will work best for their company?
Yeah. So in the process, I kind of send off a little questionnaire that has them tell me a little bit more of, or actually when they inquire, they tell me, what kind of processes do you run? Do you do installations? Do you do deliveries? Do you do pickups? Not everyone does all of those things. So that's part of the process. We're kind of taking into effect those different types of services that people are doing. And then there's this questionnaire that I will have sent before we meet to kind of get into the nuts and bolts, like the assets of their business. So those are ready to go. When we meet, then we talk really about their specifics. When do you want your reminder email? When do you want your thank you email? How much do you need to know of this type of service? What do you need to know before you can send them a quote? And those types of things. So, and it varies for some people. So a lot of it is similar, but
where do I fall? Because I know you know my workflow. Am I pretty wishy-washy, or am I pretty like set in my process?
I think that yours is pretty like moving along, because you have streamlined your offerings so much that it's like, choose from these things. And what I like about it is like the customers, some customers, the rare ones, know what things are and how to talk to you about what a garland is versus an arch and things. But for the most part, they don't really. So like having your pricing guide that you can both refer to is like, I think a big piece of it, because otherwise you're thinking one thing, but they're thinking another thing. And, until the decor shows up, you just might have to cross your fingers sometimes. I know. I'm talking about the same thing. So
I know. I'm like always trying to speed things up. Like, how can we get to the invoice faster?
Yeah.
Very cool. So. And within 17 Hats, I kind of want to clarify this point for people listening. You don't work for them, right? Like, explain your relationship to 17 Hats.
Yeah. So I'm an ambassador, but I'm not employed by them. So I'm just like, a big fan who came across it on a summer day at my old
job. True.
And it kind of clicked for me. So just knowing that it's, it can be, there's a lot. The more you look, the more there is to do and things.
Oh, it's like never ending. I mean, I've been using it for 8 years and I still reach out to you like, I can't figure this out. Like, I don't know what's going wrong here. And it's always changing and growing. It is a big platform, which is why I think it's nice that, you're available to help, because otherwise we all have to become experts in it. And it's big. It's really big. But you don't work for them. And I feel like sometimes people think you do with their requests. And it's like, well, no, you're not going to go in and like change the code. You are simply like a power user.
Right. Yeah. So being an ambassador, they did send me with that banner and things to Float. So probably could have helped in that confusion. But it's just, they want to help their ambassadors spread the good word about their program. But just kind of a power user who wants to spread the joy of automation and streamlining to other people. So.
Yeah. What do you think the biggest hurdle is when you're setting this up for people? What's the hardest part for your clients?
I would say sometimes could even be the confusion, where does your website start and end, and where does 17 Hats start and end? How do they work together? Because 17 Hats is so robust, it does so much for you, but it only lives on your website, right? Your website is a way for people to access 17 Hats, kind of. So I think that kind of trips people up. They're unsure.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
That and like, will I still need QuickBooks, or will I still send invoices through Square? All of the things, like 17 Hats does take care of that.
I've had that conversation with people too. They're like, I just want one thing that does everything. And it's like, well, literally, that doesn't exist. Like,
no,
you still need an accounting system. You still need a website. 17 Hats is like, I feel like I tried to come up with an analogy, and the best I could do is like, your website is like your store, like your brick and mortar. And then 17 Hats is like what happens at the cash register. Like, you're ready to buy, you check out, they take your money, it puts your order in the system. And then there's still other components. Like, you still have to like go to the bank. You still have to like put your inventory in the stock room. Like, they don't all live in the same system, but there are a lot of like crafty workarounds that we've kind of all started using, like online scheduling or little notes in the project notes area. It's like people write their little inventory codes in there. So there's so many different little tricks. And I think that's what's cool about so many balloon people using 17 Hats, because the more of us that figure it out, the more tricks we all learn, like if we share.
Yeah.
And you share a ton. You share a ton of tips and tricks on Instagram, on your newsletter, and you have some ideas coming up. So actually, let's take our final break and then let's talk about kind of how your business has changed and grown, and just ideas where you're thinking of potentially expanding.
Sure. Yeah.
Hey listeners, before we wrap up today's episode, let's talk about our fantastic sponsor, the Balloon Guild. Do you ever see amazing balloon decor online and wonder, how did they make that? The Balloon Guild is revolutionizing the industry by standardizing recipes, SOPs, and offering unparalleled training. Their mission? To elevate balloon artists worldwide, ensuring efficiency, profitability, and unparalleled professionalism. For business owners and their teams, the Balloon Guild isn't just a resource, it's a game changer for growth and development. For me, it's been the ultimate shortcut in finally getting things out of my head and onto paper, so I'm not making things up on the fly, and so my team can work together to create consistent, fast decor. Visit their platform today at theballoonguild.com or by using the link in the show notes. New recipes and resources are released every month. All right, welcome back. So 17 Hats, we love it. We use it. A lot of you love it and use it as well. You are returning to Summit this next year, and you will once again be teaching on 17 Hats. Is that correct?
Yeah, always ready to talk about 17 Hats.
And a great place to like answer those questions or ask those questions face to face too. But where, like, besides doing the setups, where else are you seeing a need in the industry, or seeing some even just potential interest on your end? What are you looking at exploring?
Yeah, well, so you mentioned like some of you are using that note section for inventory and things. And, the more I get to talking on the few workshops I've had and things and talking with folks, it's like everybody has found their workarounds, right? And over time, as people get more used to using it, little tricks and tips come up. So yeah, I guess I had been thinking for a while if some kind of group, meeting a couple of times a month, sharing some ideas and tips and tricks might be of interest to folks. So yeah, I was going to put out just like a little gauging interest on that type of thing.
Yeah, I love it. Like a little mini mastermind. I love that because personally, as someone who has been using 17 Hats for a long time, it's hard to post a question about it in like a Facebook group and then not get inundated with people who are like, what's 17 Hats? How do you use it? What is it? And it's like, no, I need to answer this really complicated, very specific question that only 17 Hats users will understand. And that doesn't apply to everyone because there's a lot of other CRMs out there. But that's actually how I found like my core group of girls that I talk to every day. Like, we started a little group chat of 17 Hats users. There's just a handful of us, and then we became, like best friends. But it is helpful to have those other people who have used it in a different way or who know exactly what you're talking about, because it is so specific. It's almost like a different language. You start talking in like 17 hats jargon and like
Yeah.
no one knows what you're talking about except other users.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, I thought it'd be kind of cool to have this, like this little mini mastermind to kind of share these tips, and what's working for one person on one side of the country could work for another, type of thing. And I mean, honestly, even just on the ambassador call the other day, we were going through all the different ways to start workflows. And I became aware of one that I had, despite my hours and hours and hours in that platform, I had never known about this way. So like, even, so there's just always, so much more to learn and tinker with, and knowing what they have in store is exciting. Just kind of being able to like dig into that together.
Or like when new features are released, like being able to implement them immediately versus like figuring out they exist years later. Like some people are just finding online scheduling. Okay, cool. So you do these show notes. So you're going to put that link in the show notes, I'm sure. People want to it's just right now, it's just for more information, right? Like, or just people are interested. So that'll be in the show notes. But then where else can people find all of the good information that you have to offer? Because you do like newsletters, you have Instagram posts, you have all these tips and tricks. Where do people find you?
Yeah, letnicolehelp.com, letnicolehelp@gmail. Sorry, letnicolehelp on Instagram. I've updated my email since
I know. We both had to go through that painful email upgrade. So we have our own domains now. Oh, I'm still transitioning over.
Yeah, I'm still a little afraid to update my calendar actually. But anyway, so let Nicole help in those two places. And I feel like the newsletter is kind of my jam. That's where I like to share my best stuff. I'm not as great on Instagram. Let's be honest, I'm not very good on Instagram. So
well, we can still get in touch with you there. And in person at Summit. So tickets are on sale for Summit right now. It's next November. We will both be there. It's one of my favorite weeks of the year. It is so business focused. And this is, switching over to 17 hats is hard. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, it is a process, which is why I think it's nice to have a coach or someone to help you or someone to just do it for you. And also Summit is a great time of year to do it because it's right before the new year. That's when I started fresh one year and kind of got motivated at the end of that year. So you're going to be there. You're going to be able to help. You're teaching. I can't wait to hear you.
I can't wait. Yeah. It's going to be fun. I mean, yeah.
You got time to prepare.
Person, but I have time to prepare. So
well, cool. Well, thank you for coming on and catching up. Congratulations on leaving your job. And it's nice to talk to someone who entered the balloon world full time, who's not a balloon artist. That's I don't know that I've ever talked to anyone who's done that.
Wow. Well, I'm happy to be the first. And I mean, thank you for, again, I couldn't thank you enough for just introducing me to this fine world and being the first one to, watching you take the leap into it yourself. I know.
Can you imagine if we had known when we started working together, like we're both going to be full-time balloon people? So
never
weird.
In my wildest dreams.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on, and I will chat with you soon.
Great.
Thanks for listening. As usual, I tried to keep it bright and light. Our presenting sponsor is 17 Hats, the CRM I use to cut the chaos and manage my entire balloon business. From the lead capture form on my website to workflows and email templates, invoicing and grab-and-go garland automated bookings, it's all powered by 17 Hats, the best customer relationship management system for balloon businesses. There's even a 50% off coupon code waiting for you in the show notes wherever you're listening. I'll see you next week in another episode.